What's given me hope for the future of journalism is the young people who are coming with new and innovative ideas that are really going to drive the future of the industry, and the new generation of journalism entrepreneurs who are finding new ways to monetize content and to think outside of the box of journalism.
Well, I think that, it has been a really tough year, and a lot of journalists are losing their jobs. I think I saw the report from Unity, I think, one of the journalist trade groups, that said that journalists are losing their jobs at like a 25% rate higher than the rest of the population. I think that the only thing really, that may be giving journalists hope are really two things. That one, that we're in a time period now where people need information more than ever. They need to understand the world around them, and they need to understand why the things that are happening. And so there's no profession, more equipped than journalism to answer those questions. And so, at the same time, while a lot of people are losing their jobs, it also, people need information, more than ever. Whether it's about what's happening, with the national economy, or what's happening locally with their, state and city. And the other thing I think is that people are losing their jobs, but then that opens up an avenue for people to then be creative, and that they're in a moment of flux and transition. There's also space for all kinds of creative thinking, new ways of doing things, combining new ways with old ways, and trying to figure out the way forward, which I don't think anyone really knows. And if anyone tells you that they know, they're lying, is kind of what I think. But that does mean that there's space for people to do creative things, and it's, if there's one profession that it does tend to attract creative people, it's journalism. So I'm confident that there is the smarts out there to figure out the answer, to figure out how we go forward, and how things can continue to provide the services that people need in news gathering and opinion and all of those things. So
I think the thing I've been looking most forward to this year has been that people seem to be understanding that we're either going to get the changes that are happening, and let's face it, the changes are here. I think the fact that people are accepting of that and people are willing to learn is the biggest beacon of hope for us. Those that do not wish to be a part of this or do not understand that it's here will simply fade away. And that's a little sad to say, but you know what? For those of us that are willing to accept and willing to adapt and willing to change and willing to experiment, the world is ours. Journalism will never die. The only thing that changes is how people receive their information. Those of us that are strong with it will present it well. Those of us that aren't will get out, and that can only be good for journalism.
The last year in journalism that gives me hope is the fact that I've been working pretty extensively with undergraduates, graduates, and doctoral students who believe fervently in the future, have committed to a career that some of us wonder in some ways why they would, but that they're looking at media so much differently, with so much invention, innovation, and outside the box thinking. I can't wait for the future.
I guess what gives me hope for the future are the facts that at conferences like these I see a lot of young people full of optimism, looking to do journalism in new ways. I think there's a recognition even among the old farts like me that that there's a lot of opportunity in these folks, and there's a lot of passion, and it's the same kind of passion that's always been there in connection with the profession. A desire to right wrongs, a desire to kind of provide really credible information for a rich audience. The difference today is that it's really going to be, and tomorrow is that it's going to be much more user-generated than it's ever been before, and the value that real journalists bring to that space is to curate that information and help the end audience really know what's credible. But it's going to be much more tapping into that collective wisdom of the crowd and filtering it to get to the truth.
Well, what makes me happy about the moment we live in journalism is that crisis means opportunity. In a way, what we can see when newspapers are concerned about their revenue, when we are concerned about the future of broadcast TV and radio, is that we have so many ideas emerging. At the same time that communication in the world is each time working faster and easier. So in opportunities like the ONA conference, we are able to talk to so many people that are trying to innovate in media, and so we have kind of future to think about in a new basis, not in the basis that we are used to work 2 or 3 years ago.
I disagree that it's been a rough year for journalism. I think it's possibly one of the best times to be a journalist in history. I think it's a very bad time to be a corporate owner of a journalism company or to have stock in a journalism company. But I think for journalists, there's never been an easier way to tell a story or a better way to tell a story than the technology that we have right now. For the people who are willing to engage in conversation instead of tell people what's going on, they are going to have the best opportunity to really explore and explode as things happen. I think that now that we're consuming media on a device that allows us to produce media and also interact with the media that's being given to us, I think traditional publishers who are used to either broadcasting their messages or printing their messages and having a passive audience are not comfortable right now with the active, engaged audience that's talking back to them. It's not like you can blame the internet for what's happening to journalism. What you can do is say the people who use the internet are making a choice right now to either tell the story themselves, arm themselves with more information, and tell stories in different ways.
It's been a tough year for traditional media and really anybody who is making money off ad-supported sites or newspapers, magazines, or whatever. But the beacon of hope for me is that no matter what happens to the legacy industries that we've all depended on for news and information up until now, there is more and more sharing and posting of content online, tweeting. There's more information and news being shared than ever before. So the need for news is only increasing, and the quantity of news is increasing. So regardless of what our business models are based on right now, I know that there's a future for news. And it's really, for those of us in news industries, it's really up to us to decide if we're going to be part of that or not. And there's tough decisions that have to be made, but ultimately I think they'll be the right ones. And I think the future is bright, but it's going to be turbulent.